think this is a killer question, all right? If I could offer you and guarantee you 1 million views by tomorrow morning, or if I could offer you 50 customers over the next 12 months, which one would you take? Don't answer too quickly, because the answer to that question is going to tell me most everything I need to know about your marketing strategy, okay? The sad part is most business owners will probably pick the million views. And that's exactly why so many businesses are chasing attention instead of building authority. And today I want to be completely honest with you, and we're going to try to change the way you think about modern marketing. Welcome back to the Content Machine, another follow-up media podcast series. This would be episode 5. As the title of this series references, this is the show where we'll stop talking about marketing hacks, and we're going to start building marketing systems. I'm Khristian Lee. Thank you for joining me. For all of you that have subscribed or left comments, please continue. Hit notify after you hit subscribe, so therefore you'll get notified as soon as we drop a new episode. And you get to stay in the know, is what I like to say. So as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest lies modern marketing has sold most business owners, that success equals views. I'm going to be honest with you, it doesn't. Now, before anyone clips that sentence and throws it on LinkedIn, let me clarify. Views matter. It is a KPI. Reach matters. That's a KPI as well. And just like those other two before it, awareness matters. But they're not the goal. They are a vehicle. And somewhere along the way, businesses started confusing the vehicle with the destination. Today, we're going to unpack why that happens, why it's dangerous, and what you should be measuring instead if you actually want to grow your business. I'm going to make a statement that I know some people are going to disagree with. I think going viral has become one of the most dangerous goals in business. Now, let me explain why. Because whenever I say that, somebody immediately thinks I'm anti-growth. Well, no, that's not it. I'm anti-confusion. We've confused entertainment metrics with business metrics, and those two things are not even close to the same. Let's compare two businesses. Imagine a roofer. He makes a funny video. It explodes. 5 million views. Everybody laughs. People all over the world share it. How many roofs did he sell in Atlanta? Probably very few. Because 5 million random viewers are not 5 million qualified buyers. Now imagine another roofer. Every Tuesday, he's going to release one educational video. How to identify hail damage, how insurance claims really work, and how to know if your roofer is lying. How long shingles actually last. Maybe every video gets 600 views, not 600,000. 600. But here's what's different. Those 600 viewers all live inside his service area. Those viewers own homes. Those viewers have roofs. And those viewers know people with roofs. 1 year later, who built the bigger business? The guy entertaining strangers, making people laugh, or the guy educating future customers? You see, businesses don't need mass attention. They need meaningful attention. That is two completely different things. And once you understand that, the scoreboard will change. The question stops being how many people watched. It becomes, did the right people watch, right? That one shift changes everything. I was dealing with a consultant, a very successful individual. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he was consulting for a dental podcast. Okay, ooh, exciting. Who wants to hear about dentists talking about their field? Well, probably dentists do. And he told me, he said, the podcast itself, the content, only had 75 listeners. But those 75 listeners were worth like $500 million each. I think we were talking about some VC companies, some venture capitalists that were buying up all these dental practices. But the point is the same. Does he need 76? If you are holding the attention of 75 people that are worth $500 million, and those are potential customers or customers. Do you need the 76? Do you need 100? Do you need 150? Probably not. Well, I'm sure if the numbers do go up, hopefully they're by people that are worth $500 million. But you don't need the dopamine hit. You don't need the vanity metrics. You need people, the right audience, paying attention that will become a buyer. That is how you leverage your business and your content to bring in more business. And here's the biggest misconception in today's marketing. Attention is incredibly cheap. But trust is expensive. Now, before anybody misunderstands me, I'm not saying attention isn't important. Of course it is. If nobody knows you exist, nobody can hire you. But here's where businesses get themselves into trouble. They assume attention automatically turns into trust. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't, not even close. Think about your own life for a second. How many advertisements did you see today? Seriously, driving to wherever you are right now, scrolling Instagram, checking email, watching YouTube, opening Facebook, listening to Spotify, seeing billboards, streaming on Netflix, streaming on Amazon, streaming on Disney, thousands, hundreds in a day. How many do you actually remember? Exactly. Attention is rented. Trust is earned. They're two completely different currencies. And yet most businesses are spending all their time trying to buy attention, which is kind of what you're doing with a pay-per-click campaign. You're essentially buying attention to try to catch people when they are searching for your content or for your service or product. And it also depends on how those campaigns are set up. Some are set up for awareness, some are set up for search intent. But nonetheless, they're two completely different currencies. And if you want to use a financial advisor as an example, advisor number one makes a sensational headline. The stock market is about to collapse. 500,000 views. People panic, comments explode. There's engagement. But advisor number two quietly releases one educational video every week. How to build wealth during uncertain markets. What diversification actually means. 3 mistakes investors consistently make. Should you pay off your debt before investing? Every video maybe gets 500 views, 300 views, 800 views. Who do you trust more with your retirement? The answer is almost always the second person, because trust isn't built from one big moment. It is built from hundreds of small moments. Remember, the 100th time you've said something is the first time I heard it. The 100th time I've said something might be the first time you've heard it. It's the consistency, it's the calm, it's the education, and it's seeing someone show up over and over again. It's the same thing with follow-up. When you follow up, people are genuinely impressed these days because a lot of people don't. And guess what? It builds trust. It builds security that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. And really, that's all you need in most businesses and industries is your word and showing up. That's all you need, and people go, he's got a track record, right? And this is kind of why so many people get discouraged, because they'll be sitting there looking at someone else's viral video and think, I'm losing. No, you're comparing two completely different games. One game is entertainment and the other one is authority, okay? And authority compounds. I'll use another example with real estate. Would you rather hire an agent who went viral because they were dancing like a goofball through $1 million listing? Yeah, it's entertaining, and if they were a good dancer, I'd probably watch it, might even laugh. Or the agent who's been educating the community for the last 2 years about inspections, financing, negotiation strategies, interest rates, market shifts, and what buyers should actually be looking for. One entertained you, and the other one prepared you. Guess which one gets the phone call? Do some reflecting internally. Think about your own industry, IT, legal, construction, medical, accounting, manufacturing. Ask yourself this: what are the questions your clients ask every single week? Those questions are opportunities to legitimately build trust, not because they're flashy, because they're useful. And useful content is always going to win. And here's something nobody talks about. The people most likely to hire you often never engage with your content publicly. That's a big one, because even for myself, we don't get a ton of engagement on every piece of content. We don't get followers or subscribers off of every piece of content. You got to also consider certain executives and high-profile people. They're probably paying attention, but they're not always showing you they're engaged. Okay, they don't comment, they don't hit the like button, they don't share your post, and they simply just sit back and watch, learn, remember, and then one day, guess what? They call, and you'll say, "How did you hear about us?" "Oh, I've been watching your videos for about 8 months. That is trust, and you can't measure that with likes and follows. The authority ladder: attention, interest, trust, authority, preference, customer. The mistake most businesses make is they celebrate step 1 and ignore the next 5. Attention will get you noticed. Trust is what is going to get you hired. And once you stop chasing attention, you start asking a much bigger question. Who am I actually creating this content for? I'm going to tell you something that sounds completely backwards. The more specific your content becomes, the bigger your business usually becomes. One of the biggest mistakes I see businesses make is they're trying to speak to everyone. And when you try to speak to everyone, you end up sounding like everyone. Let's take a real estate agent again for an example. Imagine they create a video titled, "Everything You Need to Know About Buying a House." Okay, who's that for? It's a first-time buyer, someone relocating, an investor, a retiree. Luxury, commercial, nobody knows. Now compare with the 5 mistakes first-time home buyers in Atlanta make before they ever talk to a realtor. Now we've got something because somebody sitting in Alpharetta who's thinking about buying their first home feels like that video was made specifically for them. Specificity creates relevance, and relevance creates attention. Attention will start to build the trust. Let's look at another example, an IT company. They release a video. Technology trends for businesses. Super freaking generic. Okay, let's try to rewrite it. The 3 cybersecurity mistakes medical practices are making in 2026. Now you've got every doctor's office paying attention. Same company, same expertise, different positioning. A financial advisor. Generic, investment tips. Specific, what business owners over 50 need to know before selling their company. Now you've got the exact audience you actually want. If you're a contractor, kitchen remodeling ideas. 5 things every homeowner should know before signing a kitchen remodel contract. You see what's happening? The content isn't broader, it's narrower. But the authority becomes bigger because people don't want experts in everything. They want experts in their problem. I want you to imagine you're standing in a crowded room with 1,000 people. If I yell, "Hey, everybody," a few people might look. But if I say, "Hey, first-time home buyers," every first-time home buyer immediately pays attention. Marketing works the same exact way. The goal isn't to get everybody's attention. The goal is to get the right people's attention. And here's where business owners start to get a little nervous. They think, if I get more specific, I'll lose customers. Actually, it's the complete opposite thing that usually happens because specialists are remembered, generalists are compared. When you're remembered, price becomes less important. When you're compared, price becomes everything. Think about that. And I'll be honest, sometimes I have to remind myself about that. Everybody does. For another industry example, an attorney, everything about personal injury versus what to do in the first 24 hours after an accident. Dentist, dental care tips. Parents, when should your child have their first orthodontic consultation? It's a great question. And I'm probably asking myself, having 3 kids that potentially could need braces, when is that first appointment? I don't even know. But that would be good to know. If you're a business coach, Obviously, how to grow is very broad and not very specific, and I'm hoping that somebody wouldn't post that as a title, versus how companies between 1 million and 5 million will get stuck. Here's your relevance equation. Your specific message to your specific audience will build a specific amount of trust. Here's the deal. The riches aren't in the niches. They're in becoming unforgettable to one audience before trying to get to everyone else. So if going viral isn't the goal and everybody isn't your customer, well, then what should we actually measure? That's where we're going next. I'm going to compare a content strategy to your retirement account, all right? And I think once you see it this way, you'll never create content the same way again. At least that's what I hope. One of the biggest mistakes businesses make, they expect every single piece of content to do everything. They expect one video to go viral, generate leads, rank on Google, build authority, create trust, close sales, generate referrals, become evergreen. I mean, that's a lot of dependency on one piece of content, and somehow do it all by Friday afternoon, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Nobody expects one investment to carry their entire retirement. So why are we expecting one Instagram reel to carry our marketing? Let's try to think about this like investors for a minute. When you sit down with a financial advisor, they don't put every dollar into one stock. Why? Because that would be called gambling. They want you to diversify. They want you to build a portfolio. So if one thing drops or goes down a little bit, you have other things that might hedge it and might have gone up, might have kept it about even. But some investments you'll be aggressive with, and some you're going to be more conservative. Some produce income, some compound for years, and some are going to be put in there to protect downside risk. Together, they will create a certain amount of stability. Content works exactly the same way. You need different content serving different purposes. Not every piece of content should chase attention. Some content should answer questions, some are meant to build trust, and some should showcase client success. While we're putting out content right now that educates, some we put out that might convert. Some should simply remind people you exist. Brand awareness. And here's the beautiful part. Once you stop judging every post individually, you start judging your content system collectively. And that's going to change your perception, because suddenly a podcast or an episode or a clip that only gets 400 views or 700 views doesn't feel like quite as big of a failure anymore. Why? Because maybe the podcast produced 8 shorts, a blog, a newsletter, 2 client conversations, maybe 1 referral, and 1 customer worth $50,000. Tell me, would you track that podcast as successful? Absolutely. Because your business isn't measured in likes, it's measured in outcomes. On the real estate front, 1 market update, 1 buyer educational video, 1 neighborhood spotlight, a client success story, a mortgage rate update. Those videos all have different jobs. Together, they will create the authority you need. Okay? On an attorneys, in the law business, in the law industry, attorneys, 1 video explains the legal process. 1's gonna tell you what not to do after an accident. 1 answers common questions. 1 tells a client success story. 1 breaks down changes in law. Different content, different purpose, 1 system. IT companies, construction companies, financial advisors, dentists, CPAs, manufacturers, everyone should have a portfolio, because diversified content produces predictable authority. Every single time, the principles do not change. You could tell me what you do. I don't care if it's an industry I've never heard of. I could ask a few questions and I could show you a roadmap of content that you should be asking or you should be creating. And that will build authority. That will build trust. And over time, that will deliver leads, clients, ROI across the board, brand awareness, you name it. It's all there for you. The content. So your content investment portfolio should be growth assets. Your content portfolio should be trending topics, current events, industry news designed to create reach. Your authority assets are educational podcasts, case studies, interviews, frameworks. These are designed to build trust. A little bit different. Your evergreen assets. These are your FAQs, the questions you answer to your clients every single day. How-to videos, or beginner guides. Mistakes that you might want to avoid. And these are designed to work and compound for years. Your conversion assets, a little bit different. Testimonials, behind the scenes, client stories, process videos. These are designed to turn trust into business. And here's an objection you might get, or here's an objection I get, but shouldn't every video perform? No. That's like expecting every employee in your company to do every job. Different assets, different responsibilities, they will produce different outcomes. Stop judging individual posts and start judging your whole content portfolio, your ecosystem, your machine. And once you realize every piece of content has a different job, the next question becomes, what should I actually measure? Let me ask you a question. What if your best piece of content was also your lowest performing post? Think about that for a second. What if the video that changed someone's opinion about your company forever only got 412 views? Would you delete it? Most businesses probably would. And some people with egos would definitely do it because that's not good enough for them. That's not a big enough dopamine hit. Their vanity wasn't stroked in the right way because it didn't have triple-digit numbers or whatever it was. Because they've been taught, most people, that views equal value, likes equal success, comments equal authority. But business doesn't actually work that way. Let's pretend you're a commercial real estate broker. You just posted a market analysis, 500 views, no comments, no shares, no viral explosion. 3 months later, a CEO reaches out. I've been watching your videos every week. I think it's finally time for us to buy another property. Now tell me, how many views was that video worth? One customer, one relationship, one deal, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's where marketing will begin to get really interesting because influence often happens long before the conversion. I'm going to say that again because I deal with this shit all the time. Influence often happens way before the conversion. People are watching, they're evaluating, they're comparing, they're researching, but they're doing it quietly. The biggest mistake business owners make, assuming silence means nobody's paying attention. It doesn't. It usually means they're still deciding. So you hit them again with another piece of content. I'll tell you something we've seen over and over. Clients hire the company they feel like they already know, not necessarily the one with the biggest audience. It's the one they trust, because trust will reduce a certain amount of uncertainty. And business is just simply the transfer of certainty. If I believe you are the safest choice that is going to deliver the easiest result and the most knowledgeable choice, price often becomes a smaller conversation because they realize you'll get what you pay for and they don't want to deal with the low budget. They'll deal with the people that can get it done the easiest and smoothest. That's why your content should reduce uncertainty. Every video should answer one question your customer already has. Every podcast should eliminate one fear. Every case study should remove one objection. Okay? And that's how content becomes a sales team. Not because it went fucking viral, because it keeps reducing friction. Let's look at these industries again. Real estate. Will this neighborhood appreciate? A financial advisor. Can I actually retire? An attorney. Do I even have a case? To your dentist, the old question they always get, is this going to hurt? And your contractor, how much is this really going to cost me? If you're in IT, how vulnerable are we to ransomware or cyber attacks, right? Your content exists to answer them before they ever contact you. And that's what authority actually is. Authority isn't knowing everything. Authority is consistently reducing uncertainty. Think about that. Remember that. because that should change your whole perspective about what you are doing and what you're not doing. In the uncertainty equation, questions answered, confidence built, trust increased, sales resistance decreases, conversions increase. That's the framework. And here are a few more objections, but nobody's going to comment on my posts. Guess what? They don't have to. Most buying decisions are pretty quiet. People consume, they're going to compare, they think, and maybe they'll call. And maybe they won't. But at the end of the day, that same process could be going on across 30 people's brains internally. That is what we call the buyer's journey. And every buyer's journey might look a little bit different. Everybody processes things, and sometimes analysis to paralysis. And some people act quick and can make a decision fast and they'll move faster. And other people are still pondering. Hit them with another piece of content that delivers that final blow. Your content isn't competing for likes. I'm going to close it out with this. It's competing to become the safest decision in someone's mind. So if your authority is built by reducing uncertainty, how do you build that authority faster? That's exactly what we're going to talk about next. I'm going to tell you who your biggest competitor is, and it's probably not who you think. You're not competing against the company down the street. You're competing against distraction. Think about your own day. How many things fought for your attention before you even got to the podcast or this podcast? Text messages, Slack notifications, emails, phone calls, Instagram, LinkedIn, news alerts, a YouTube recommendation, your calendar, your kids, your employees, your clients. By the time someone has a free moment to consume your content, they've already made hundreds, if not thousands, of tiny little decisions where to place the attention and the priority of what they're going to give. That's the environment your business is now operating in, and yet I still hear business owners say things like, I'm just trying to beat the guy's ass down the street or across town. No, you're trying to earn a few minutes in the middle of every noisy world. That's a completely different challenge, and this is what I mean. Let's say you're an attorney. You're not just competing with another law firm. You're competing with a podcast someone just queued up for their drive home. You're competing with Netflix, ESPN, their fantasy football team, with the email they forgot to answer. You're competing with every other piece of information that is asking for their damn attention. Real estate, you're not just competing with another realtor. You're competing with HGTV, Zillow, YouTube, Instagram influencers showing luxury homes, market newsletters, neighborhood Facebook groups. Financial advisors, you're not just competing with another advisor. You're competing with CNBC, Reddit, investing forums, Substack, TikTok finance creators, your client's brother-in-law who thinks they're Warren Buffett. Everyone is fighting for attention, but here's where most businesses will make a critical mistake. They try to become louder. They think, I'll post more, I'll yell louder. If my thumbnails are crazier, I'll win. Sometimes, maybe for a moment. But attention earned through noise is temporary. Attention earned through usefulness is 1000% remembered. That's why the goal isn't to outshout everyone. The goal is to become the person your audience intentionally looks for. Think about creators you follow. You don't just stumble across them anymore, you seek them out. When Alex Hormozi publishes, people share it before they finish watching. That's authority. And authority changes the relationship. Instead of interrupting people's day, you just now are part of it. And that's where every business should be aiming. Not to be seen once. You need to become a trusted habit. Now let me bring this back to your business. Imagine you're a local CPA. What if every Monday morning your audience knew you released a 3-minute tax tip? Or if you're a mortgage broker and every Thursday people expected your weekly rate breakdown. Or if you're a contractor and every Friday homeowners looked forward to your weekend DIY mistake video. You're no longer competing for random attention. You're building a routine. And routine creates relationships. And the businesses that grow the fastest don't just publish content, they become part of their audience's weekly rhythm. And that's incredibly hard to copy. and also incredibly hard to break. What does it take? 21 days to build that habit. And your habit loop looks like this. It's consistency, expectation, trust, habit, preference, referral. Most businesses stop at consistency, but consistency isn't just the beginning. When people begin expecting you, you've crossed into something way more powerful than you could ever imagine. But won't people get tired of hearing from me every week? Yeah, maybe. Some will. And that's okay. The people who matter are the ones who begin relying on your content. You're not trying to become everyone's favorite creator. You're trying to become your future customer's favorite expert. Those are two different goals and two different perspectives. The goal isn't to interrupt someone's day. The goal is to become part of it. Hands down, you win. And once people begin expecting your content, something really interesting will start to happen. They stop asking if you're qualified and start assuming you are. I'm going to tell you the real product every business sells. Are you ready for it? Wait. It's probably not what you think. Businesses don't sell products. They're selling certainty. Let's think about this. If you hire a lawyer, are they buying the legal paperwork? No. They're buying the confidence that someone knows what the hell they're doing. When someone hires a financial advisor, they're not buying charts, they're buying peace of mind. When someone hires an IT company, they're not buying servers, they're buying the confidence that their businesses will keep running. When someone hires a roofer, they're not buying shingles, they're buying the certainty that the roof won't leak during the next storm. Business has always been about reducing uncertainty. The internet changed how people gather information. AI is changing how they evaluate it. But here's the deal, the psychology hasn't changed. The principles have not changed. People still ask themselves the same question. Can I trust this person? Now here's where content changes everything. Before the internet, people had to schedule a meeting to learn how you thought. Today, they can watch 20 videos, listen to 5 podcasts, read 3 articles you wrote. They can browse your website, see client testimonials, watch your team interact, read your Google reviews, and by the time they contact you, they've already formed an opinion. Think about that. Your sales process often starts long before that first conversation. In many cases, your content has already been interviewing for the job. That's why I don't believe content is marketing. I believe content is pre-sales, removing objections, building familiarity, creating certainty. Here's an example. Imagine 2 commercial real estate brokers. One has a polished website with 3 paragraphs and a contact form. But the second guy has 50 educational videos, market updates, interviews with developers, tax strategy discussions, lease negotiation tips, commercial financing breakdowns. Actually, we have a client right now we're dealing with who fits B to a T. And I'm going to give a shout out to Bull Realty, Michael Bull, who's got the commercial real estate show, America's commercial real estate show. This guy has been producing content for 15 years, way before most businesses even thought about producing ongoing content. Hasn't missed a podcast episode in 15 years. Now that is consistency, and his business is monstrous. Guess which broker already feels more qualified before the first meeting? Michael Bull. Or option B. It's the second one. Not because they necessarily know more, but because they've demonstrated what they know. That's the difference. Authority isn't claimed, it is demonstrated. And content is one of the most scalable ways to demonstrate expertise. Let's bring this back to follow-up media. People ask us all the time, does podcasting work? It's the wrong question. The better question is, does consistently demonstrating expertise work? Because that's what podcasting is. It's just simply one vehicle for transferring confidence. The platform isn't the magic. The consistency is. Here's your framework for your certainty curve. Content, familiarity, confidence, trust, decision, advocacy. The sale often happens after confidence, not before. Here's an objection. Well, what if I'm not comfortable on camera? Well, I got to be honest with you, no one really is. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to look perfect. You don't even need to be understandable. Authenticity beats polish when authenticity is paired with expertise. People can forgive an imperfect delivery. They rarely forgive unclear thinking. People don't hire the person who says, "I'm the expert." They hire the person who consistently proves it. That's the difference. So if content isn't really about views, and it isn't really about going viral, and it isn't really about social media, then what exactly are we building? I think that's the most important lesson of this whole entire episode. I'm going to leave you with one final thought, and I don't think businesses should be trying to build content anymore. I really think businesses should be building a reputation. Everything else is just the delivery mechanism. If you zoom out for just a minute, we've covered a lot. We've talked about why chasing viral moments is a dangerous strategy. We talked about the difference between attention and trust. We talked about why speaking to everyone usually means connecting with no one. We talked about building a portfolio of content instead of expecting one video to change your entire business. We also talked about reducing uncertainty instead of chasing likes. But underneath all of those lessons, they're really teaching just one thing. It all comes down to one thing: reputation. Think about how businesses used to build reputation. It happened one customer at a time, one referral, one handshake. It's at a networking event. Maybe you gave one speech. Maybe you're by the coffee machine. Don't get me wrong. All of those things still matter. But today you have something business owners back then never had before: the ability to scale your reputation, not your fucking ego, not your follower count, your reputation. That is a massive difference. If someone watches 50 of your videos, listens to a podcast every Tuesday, reads your newsletter, visits your website, and sees you're consistently teaching your craft, they're beginning to know how you think, not just what you sell. And that is extremely powerful, because buying decisions rarely begin with the price. They begin with the confidence. Confidence comes from seeing and hearing you all the time, being familiar with you, from being consistent. Consistency creates reputation. Now, here's something I want every business owner listening to remember, because your competitors can copy your prices. They can copy your services. They can even copy your website. But it's incredibly difficult to copy years of consistency, of constantly showing up and educating your market. That's the moat. That's the competitive advantage. And here's where AI changes everything. We're entering a world where buyers don't just search Google. They ask AI, they search YouTube, they listen to podcasts, they're going to compare reviews, they ask their network. They consume information from 10 different places before they ever schedule a meeting. The businesses that consistently demonstrate expertise across all those touch points won't just get found more often, they'll be trusted more quickly. And that is why this series isn't really about podcasting. It's not really about YouTube. It's not even about Instagram. It's really not even about content. When you really take even a microscope, even though I don't have one, and you zoom in on it, what's it really about is clarity around what you know, about the amount of expertise and experience you have. And when somebody hears your company name, what do you want them to think? Do you want them thinking they post funny videos? Or that's the company that always teaches me something? Because those businesses will win every time. Now here's the challenge that I want to leave you with. Imagine it's 3 years from now. You recorded one podcast episode every week. Every podcast became 10 clips. Every clip answered a customer question. Every question removed uncertainty. Every month, another 100 people discovered your expertise. Every year, thousands of people began recognizing your name and your brand's name. How different would your business look in 5 years? What would your sales process? Would it be easier? Would referrals increase? Would recruiting improve? Would your partnerships happen more often? Would customers show up already trusting you? Pretty sure they would. And I don't think that's marketing anymore. I think that's market leadership. There's a huge difference. Marketing says, look at me. Leadership, let me help you. The companies that consistently help eventually become the companies people consistently hire. That's why we built Follow Up Media. Not to help businesses make more content, but to help businesses become impossible to ignore. But for all the right reasons. I'm going to leave you with something that I hope becomes part of how you think about your business. Content is not about posting, it's about teaching. Teaching builds trust. Trust will build authority. Authority creates preference, and preference builds businesses. So stop asking what I should post today. Start asking, what questions can I answer today? Stop asking, how do I go viral? And start asking, how do I become unforgettable? Stop chasing attention, start earning trust. Stop trying to be everywhere and start becoming the best answer somewhere. Because here's what I know. Businesses don't grow because they publish more. They grow because more people trust them. And trust isn't built overnight. It is built one conversation at a time. That is the machine. This is Follow Up Media. This is the Content Machine series. You know, content doesn't build business. Once again, trust does. Content is simply how trust scales. I'm Khristian Lee. Hit subscribe in the episode description or in below the video. All of our information is in every episode description. Subscribe. We're available on all podcasting platforms. Thank you so much for giving us a sliver of your attention. And I hope this content, this episode, makes an impact into your decision making. And if you want more information or more help, just reach out to followupmedia.com.